Hello and welcome to the Larp Guide. If you're thinking about giving Larp a go, but don't have that cash to splash, or you're trying to reduce the costs of this hobby, then please stick around and hear me out on my top 5 ways to Larp on a budget. Also, if you stick around to the end of this video, I will be highlighting a great example of a Larp system that caters for people on a budget. Every Larp system and event you go to will be different, but there will always be one element that will stay the same. The more you are getting at the Larp, the higher the cost of entry will be, and rightfully so. Larp organisers normally make enough money to either break even, or if they're very lucky, have enough left over to subsidise the risk of loss of the next event. The difference between the game being in the back room of a pub and you staying in a castle for the weekend is often reflected within the ticket price. That's not to say though that if you're LARPing on a budget, a certain type of LARP will be blocked off from you. Far from it. But you may have to be a little bit more open-minded and selective over what LARPs you can afford to attend. When picking your LARP event, look at what you'll be getting for your money and then ask yourself, is that something you really want? If it's not, then instead of pushing yourself to be able to afford it, look at another event or system instead. Trust me when I say I have had just as much fun role-playing in the back room of a pub than in the ballroom of a castle. Be picky. Look for events that tick all of your boxes. You would be amazed how much money you can save at a LARP event by giving up some of your time. It's something that's becoming more and more common here in the UK. Players can give up a portion of their game time to help out the event organisers and in return get a free or subsidised ticket. Granted, this does mean you are giving up a portion of your game when compared to a full price ticket, but you could be getting a free ticket, so it kind of all balances out in the end. Now that's not to say that this will always be available, but if you are looking at an event but the ticket price is above your budget, maybe consider contacting the event organisers and offering some of your time in exchange for a reduced ticket price. But always remember, your time is highly valued at a LARP event, and even leading up to the event, if you can spare some time, consider offering it. Most events will have a brief that will give clear indication on what is acceptable at that event regarding your costume and the way you look. Some events hold a higher standard than others, and this standard can come at a minimum entry price when you compare it to other systems. For example, a system set in the modern day in which you can use clothing you have from knocking around the house will be a lot cheaper than a system that sees you dressing up from a certain period in history. When you are on a budget, there are some options open to you if you're willing to donate a little bit of your time and of course, be creative. You can make your own costume and in doing so, save on those labour costs. You can reach out to friends or members of the Larp community and request to borrow or purchase second-hand costume. You could do a charity shop dive and hope to uncover some gems. I have done this a lot over the years and I still get excited when I go on a costume hunt. But the most important thing to remember is that game brief, and if you are meeting it, outside of that, you can then look to improve on your costume when your budget permits at a later date. Kit shaming is not a thing anymore, and if someone does it, please point this out to them and of course report them to the event organisers. There is nothing wrong with your costume, but there is definitely something wrong about the person who feels it's okay to say there is. Just keep to that game brief as the minimum standard, and if your budget cannot afford that, then look to attend another event. If the event is in another country and you can't afford the flight, then I'm sorry to say, but them's the breaks. Okay, that's poor advice. But when you think about it, How easy is it to say you can't afford an event in another country because of the cost of travel? Well, when you're on a budget, every Larp can feel like a plane ticket away, especially when you don't have access to a vehicle. So my advice for budget travel is to pool your resources. You don't need 4 cars for 4 people to get to an event. You just need the one. Consider reaching out on the event community boards and see if there's anyone else who's traveling up from your area that you could maybe catch a lift with, in return for maybe some fuel money or donating some of your time to help them set up when they arrive at the game. Consider looking at events more local to you and within reach of public transportation, and maybe even go one step further and see if there's any offers going for these types of transportation. As a driver, I have over the years offered lifts to friends travelling up to the event in exchange for an even split of the fuel cost with everybody who's in the car, taking myself out of that equation as the driver. This has often gotten the transportation costs to and from the event down to about £15 per head, and of course my costs being free. So maybe consider, if you're looking to save some money and have access to a vehicle, offer out lifts to the event as a means to reduce your costs. Tents cost more money than you think. You are not just paying for the tent, you're also paying for everything that goes into that tent to make it comfortable. And that price, due to it either being hot or cold, can then be doubled. So, if I look back over my years of LARPing, I wish I had never invested, thrown money in a hole trying to make myself comfortable sleeping on the ground. But if I'd just shared that cost with friends or looked at staying in another type of accommodation, or sod it, just avoided camping at a LARP altogether, I could have saved a fortune. When you are camping on a budget, you are basically sacrificing comfort for cost. And this can very quickly result in a terrible event. So before making the same mistakes I did by upgrading over the years an expensive game of chasing that elusive comfortable night's sleep, if you are dead set on attending a LARP that involves camping, trust me when I say borrow over buy. Save that money and then invest in a good quality item. Do not budget buy here. Well, unless you can find some good second-hand equipment. But this is about how to budget advice, so hear me out on this. You maybe travel to the event in a car. If you are looking for the safest option to weather the storm, you are better off making that car comfortable than trying to make a cheap tent. The most comfortable night's sleep camping at a LARP I've ever had was in the back of a van with a cheap mattress I bought off Amazon. At the beginning of the video, I said I would give a great example of a LARP event organizer catering for budget LARPers. But before I do, if you have enjoyed this video so far, then please give that like button a bash and maybe consider popping me a message in the comments. Profound Decisions are the creators behind Empire, one of the largest fantasy LARP fests here in the UK, with a player base in the thousands. I have had the pleasure of attending their events for years now, but I had no idea of the levels they have gone to accommodate a budget player. They offer players, in exchange for some time before, during or after the event, a free event ticket and food, plus an after-event party as a means to say thank you. They have done this by breaking down all of the jobs that go into running a LARP into an easy-to-understand wiki entries on their completely public crew page. Here you can find what job best suits you, and then using their job availability list, see if that job will be available at the event you wish to attend. They also offer a referral discount to both new and old players that can net you a whopping £15 off both players' ticket price. So, if you're able to borrow some kit, find some accommodation and then catch that lift, you could end up with not only a completely free event, but also all your food is paid for. And of course, that nice discount for a friend. Up until I had a conversation with a friend who cleans the toilets at the event, I had no idea how far profound decisions have gone to cater their event for all types of players and budgets. Please go and check out their wiki to get a much better understanding of what's on offer. The description of this can be found below. Well, that covers it. Hopefully, you have found this video useful. Thank you for watching. I love you all, and goodbye.